Hello and welcome to Talking Events, the industry podcast brought to you by Event Industry News, being recorded today in the fabulous surroundings of Twickenham Stadium. We were invited by the event and hospitality team here at Twickenham to set up the Talking Events studio in one of their hospitality suites overlooking the pitch. And a fabulous invitation. The hospitality here has been great. We should say a big thank you to them for allowing us to do that and recording this batch of episodes. On today's Talking Events, we welcome for the first time into the Talking Events studio James Anderson from Arena Group. James, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi there, how are you?
Very well, thank you. A bit of a different episode today because we've invited you in for a one-on-one to talk a little bit about Arena Group. People will be no doubt familiar with the name, with the company and broadly what it is you do, perhaps less so with the history and the rich history that the company's got, and your involvement really with some of the most iconic venues and sporting venues in the UK, and how that's then developed worldwide. Let's start by talking a little bit about your own role within Arena, what it is you're responsible for.
So I'm the commercial director for Arena Group. I'm responsible for, I would suggest we call them big one-offs, special projects, things that are slightly different to the norm of the core business of the group. If you look at the Henley Festival, we've been doing that for 80 years. Down on the Thames there, 60 years at Wimbledon. We've been working with the European Tour for 25 years. You know, we've got some great long-term relationships. And they trust Arena and they trust Arena Group to sort of optimise their revenue streams with hospitality clients, with sponsors, the general public, etc., etc.
On next week's episode of Talking Events, we're going to be inviting you back into the studio, alongside a couple of guys from Lord's Cricket Ground and also Twickenham in itself, to discuss how venues and sporting venues are expanding their permanent offerings to incorporate more events and to offer a broader spectrum of events there. But this is by no means a new concept, is it? This is something that Arena have been doing with sporting venues for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, with Lords, we've been, Lords I think are about 250 years old. We've been working with Lords for a long time, putting in temporary seating for them. Every time that there's an international match there, they want to increase their capacity for seating. We have to be quite clever because there isn't that much space to put stuff. So we put a lot of stuff in there for them on a yearly basis. Twickenham exactly the same. We delivered a huge amount for them for the Rugby World Cup. So it's we enable permanent venues to host annual tournaments outside of what their core business generally is.
What are the benefits of them of doing that? Why don't they just go ahead and build the stuff all the time and have it there all the time?
Let's look at Cheltenham, for example. So the Cheltenham week, which is just sort of gone. We build there. Well, I think it's the longest triple decker in the world. It's 6,500 square meters, 125 meters long. I would suggest they probably get the largest chunk of their revenue for the Gold Cup week. They literally couldn't afford to have that building built and maintain it and run it as a permanent venue. So it absolutely pays them. The revenues they get from the uplift in their hospitality spend and the revenues they get through there enables them to pay us to build it and then increase their offering.
When we're talking about a structure of that size, even though it's going on a temporary basis, that's still a very long project in terms of when you've got to start building it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cheltenham week is middle of March. We put down our first base plate straight after Christmas on the 4th of January. So it's fundamentally a 2.5 to 3 month build, which includes the building of the structure, but of course the design and the internal fit out to make a temporary building look like a permanent building.
How regularly does that design change?
Annually. So we will work very closely with the Jockey Club. We've been working for the Jockey Club for about 25 years around all the various venues it's got.
Sure, yeah.
And everywhere that we go, we will put different designs in different concepts, and fundamentally change it on a yearly basis.
What shapes those design changes? Is that led by people like JCR, by the Jockey Club Racecourse organisation, or by their clients?
It's a bit of both. It's by the Jockey Club, it's by us. We will present them new designs on a yearly basis. They'll tell us what their thoughts are. They'll get customer feedback on what they want to include. NFC stuff, the all the sort of the stuff with mobile phones.
No, the contactless payments and things
all
like that.
As technology changes, we need to change our offering. So it's a continuous evolvement of what we do.
So you have a direct responsibility for those elements as well as the actual structure itself.
We do the complete internal fit out, absolutely. So for instance, if so the whole thing.
Is that something that a lot of people may not be aware of? That they'll think, oh, Arena Group, they put the structure up, and then we've got to fit it out ourselves.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. One of our biggest revenues and one of our biggest offerings is internal fit out.
Right.
We're not just we're a Arena Group, have core businesses of seating, structures, and furniture with our Spaceworks brand, and of course Arena Ice. We do 30 odd ice rinks a year around the country, well, around the world, in fact. But we have an interiors business that does some fantastic designs, and we design it, we build it, we manufacture it. Yeah, we do the whole 9 yards.
But the ice rinks then is a whole other conversation itself,
yes,
because winter events have grown massively, haven't they, in recent years, and we're seeing more and more of those ice rinks. Perhaps that one's for another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've highlighted the scale of the structures at Cheltenham. Is everything that you do is obviously a special event, but is everything that Arena do specifically these high-level special events, or is there smaller scale stuff as well?
Yeah, we do everything really. So we might deliver 6,500 square metres of a triple decker for the Rugby World Cup on like as we did at Twickenham, or we might deliver a 500 square metre event for, I don't know, somebody like Renault for a car launch. We do both ends of the scale. So big sporting events, we do sort of conference and events work. We'll do exhibition work. There's lots of stuff that we do so we're not just a structures and a seating company.
You mentioned that you do have these long relationships
Yes.
and ongoing relationships with a number of venues, but have you seen as an organisation, as a company, and in your particular sector, a growth within venues as a whole looking to expand their permanent facilities and the benefits of utilising temporary buildings and infrastructure to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's more venues around now than there's probably ever been. They want and like to have the option of putting up temporary venues to give them exhibition space, to give them hospitality space. So if you look at sort of any open space, all of a sudden they can be a venue. And certainly with our help, they can be a venue.
How random have those open spaces been in your experience? Are they necessarily in these high-profile locations, or could they be quite off the beaten track?
No, they can be anywhere. I mean, if you look at Commonwealth Games, that the OC wanted, they built, for instance, areas they built some stuff on a shooting ground, where there was absolutely no infrastructure whatsoever. So it's companies like Arena and some of our competitors that enable them to do that.
What's changed in terms of the actual the hardware that you're offering? You mentioned the NFC stuff and the actual fit out of some of these buildings. How has the day-to-day activities of the modern consumer helped shape what you have to deliver for your clients because of what they need to offer their end users?
If we're working for a brand, we obviously have to work within their brand guidelines, and we generally get a steer from their marketing team as to what they're trying to deliver.
Right.
So we will work hand in hand with the corporates to ensure that what we give them pretty much what they want. Mm-hmm. Which could include the building, the interior, the NFC, the whole thing. But we will come up with suggestions as to what they want. But if you look at the car manufacturers, for instance, we do quite a bit of work for. They're cutting edge stuff. They're developing new technologies every day. Certainly with the electric side of the motors, of the motor industry at the moment. So they're there, and they want to be able to show that off to the public when they're hosting their events, and we can assist them to do that.
Can we talk a little bit about the stuff that you're doing overseas? I don't know if that's something that you're allowed to talk about. How much of it is protected? But my understanding is you're involved in the Summer Olympics this year down in Rio. Why the need to come to a company like Arena over here to bring that expertise over that sort of distance? I mean, what are you doing in terms of leading the way and setting examples to other companies?
I think we should talk about Great Britain here. We work very closely with the UKTI, and Britain has got a phenomenal knowledge in delivering what is classed as overlay.
Right.
The overlay expression is quite an overused word, but fundamentally it means if you look at the Rugby World Cup that's held at Twickenham, you've got the venue here today, which is just fundamentally a bowl with some car parks. This is a vastly different place to how it was for Rugby World Cup. So if the word overlay, if you lift Twickenham up and you tip it out when the Rugby World Cup was on, everything that falls out is classed as overlay. So it's anything that's temporary. With the 2012 Olympics, the 2014 Commonwealth Games, there is such a huge amount of knowledge. UKTI actually promote, certainly Arena, worldwide to the OCs at Rio, Tokyo 2020, Korea, Pyeongchang, and of course the Commonwealth Games in 2018 Brisbane. So we've got the UK Tigers are out there telling everybody that Britain is great. Britain can help you do your overlay. Britain has got some fantastic companies that can deliver your sporting events. So it works really well for us. So hence why we built the amazing beach volleyball at Horse Guards Parade in 2012.
Well. Yeah.
So from scratch it was the only completely turnkey project at the Olympics in 2012. And that has enabled us to basically take that model and take it to Rio and take it to Brisbane, etc., etc. So we're asked to do stuff on the back of what we've done before.
Not just in terms of the scale of the projects that you're involved in back in 2012 and the London Olympic Games. How much of a learning curve was it for Arena Group, and how did it help shape the business in order for you to move forward in terms of what you learned by delivering those projects?
One thing that the main thing that we learned is that we want to do one big job very, very well. We don't want to. We're not trying to take over the world. We don't want to be the biggest supplier in the world by far, but we do want to be the best, and we are. And we do believe we're the most professional. I think we've got the most experienced team in the UK that go around the world, for the project managers, the CAD designers, our own structural engineers that help us build stuff. Yeah.
When you're delivering something of that scale, you said you want to do one project really, really well.
Yes.
Have other companies, and perhaps it may be tricky for you to answer, but I suppose it's an opinion, have other companies made the mistake of falling into the trap of let's do as many as we can because that's good for business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. We have a reasonably small team. What we certainly won't do is overstretch ourselves for the sake of trying to win more revenue. For us, it's about delivering the job right for both the client, from the client's point of view, and from our sort of EBITDA point of view. These things have got to be profitable.
We've spoken a lot about sporting venues,
yes.
and it's clearly a big area and a big area of expertise that and rich history for Arena. But I'm looking at, as we're sat here now, looking at pictures of stuff that you did at V a few years ago, the R House, the Virgin R House structure. Inevitably, music festivals are another area that have grown significantly in the last few years. When we look at music festivals now and what they are now and how they're delivered in 2016 compared to how they were delivered even 10 years ago and 20 years ago, the level of infrastructure that's now in those particular events is massive, isn't it? The consumer expectation of what they want, even at a temporary greenfield event, has changed completely.
If you think about Arena as a whole, a lot of the stuff we've talked about being at sporting events is fundamentally grandstand seats and temporary structures. But if we do a massive amount of music work. So Elton John concerts, Lionel Richie this year. There's a huge amount of stuff that we do. Pretty much every week we've got seats. Every time you see temporary seats on the TV, it's us. And we do a huge amount of television work. We do, so it's not all about sporting. Yes, we do some fantastic sport events, and we do, but there's a lot of other stuff that we do as well that perhaps people don't know too much about.
Is the process of delivering those other types of events, the music festivals, the music concerts, is the process of delivering them any different at all to delivering the sporting events? Are there different considerations that have to be met in light of the type of event that it is?
I'll give you an example. We did sport relief a couple of weeks ago with seating, and we had the call on the Friday. The seats had to be installed over the weekend for the Monday morning. So it was literally a 24-hour turnaround from, have you got them, can you install them, can you be here tomorrow? And it was literally, we have the capability in the business to be able to react really, really quickly to last minute demands.
Any reason as to why that was left so late? Was it just a last-minute addition to the programme?
Oh, it's the BBC, I don't know. But we have some fantastic relationships with the ITVs and the BBCs of the world, and they actually know that if they suddenly decide we want to put some more seats in or whatever, they know they can call us and we will deliver it. And we do it time and time again for them.
I'd like to highlight something to the people listening to this episode, and I believe it was what you did the Arena did at Aintree for a number of years, where you installed a triple-decker.
That's right, triple-decker,
I think
hospitality
it was
structure,
hospitality at Aintree, which subsequently, as a result of that going in over a number of years on a temporary basis, they did actually decide, do you know what? This works, we're going to put this in permanently. I know that you mentioned earlier on that some of the costs of doing that, it's not going to be applicable in every scenario, but how did that come about, and has that paved the way for other venues to almost test the water on a similar basis?
It was fundamentally about proving a model. So Aintree had a wish that they wanted to try something out. They wanted to expand their hospitality offering. They had to prove to their board that it was going to be a cost-effective thing for them to do, to spend the money. So they came to us and asked us to build this temporary over a 3 or 4 year contract. And by putting in the top level of hospitality that they were going to replicate in a permanent building, we proved that that they could absolutely get the return on their investment that they needed.
So the services that you provide are very much a means, if needs be, of a venue testing the water.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one particular venue that we do some work at, that they throughout the winter period they have a temporary building there that they use as a conference and small exhibition centre with breakout rooms. So it's a conference theatre style upstairs with breakout rooms downstairs. That is then the walls then come out and they use that for hospitality, for their main sort of show jumping events. They also have music licenses, so they sell that as top hospitality for those types of events. And what it fundamentally means is that they can prove the model to the shareholders, the investors, that by having this type of venue there, that can come down at any point, we can make it bigger, we can make it smaller, we can grow it, etc., etc. If they'd have invested in a permanent building and the model didn't work, then they've got themselves a white elephant.
So it's very much given them a means, like you said, not just to test the water, but prove to stakeholders, because most of the venues that you'll be working in will have major stakeholders in them, won't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which will need to sign off any form of investment that's going to go into their venues. Yeah. How challenging is it then to meet the demands that you've got from the clients who are wishing to deploy your actual structures, but work within the budgetary constraints and maybe that those stakeholders may alleviate on them? Is it something that happens regularly, or do you find that, generally speaking, by proving the business model, you are given scope to be able to expand those operations if the client needs it?
That's a good question. I think the best way to talk to answer that is to talk very briefly about ice rinks.
Right.
This year we've built around 30 ice rinks, but we've actually operated half a dozen ourselves at risk. So we've taken the view that the venue that wanted the ice rink, the footfall's big enough, the venue can get extra catering revenue from having the skaters there, etc., etc. But we'll take the risk on putting the rink in. And that's a similar sort of answer to the question with regard to putting up a temporary conference centre. we might take the risk with the venue. It's something that we would look at a risk share.
But confident that by proving to stakeholders that the concept works, then
Absolutely.
that will be delivered time and again in subsequent years.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. But it has to be the right venue in the right place with the right amount of footfall for us to do that. But at the end of the day, we're a business, and if we can make money out of adapting what we do, then we're going to do that every day.
And I mentioned earlier that perhaps winter events is subject for another discussion. But while you've mentioned ice rinks, how has the development of winter events improved Arena's business, but also then shaped how you need to operate by considering how the differences in operating and delivering your types of structure during the winter periods?
It's a good question. Arena are very fortunate. So because of our ice work that we have, we've sort of flattened the curve. Most structure businesses peak in the summer months. So you get no revenue, massive revenue, no revenue. Mm-hmm. So you break even during the winter months, and you make your profit during the summer months as a normal sort of marquee company would. That's not us. Because we've invested heavily in ice equipment. We own our own ice rink kit ourselves, and we don't hire it in from anybody else. It's all us. It basically means that we've got that we've levelled off our profitability throughout the year. So we're busy pretty much 12 months of the year now.
Which has solved a number of issues, as you said, in terms of keeping the kit on the road. Are you able to utilise a lot of the kit that you use in the summer months now on these winter events, or is it a totally different portfolio of hardware?
No. So I mean, obviously ice rinks, we don't put very many of them in the summer, but certainly skate exchanges and cafes and that sort of stuff. It's all kit that we've got that wouldn't otherwise be used. So we've just added to our portfolio really the right way.
And how are the when we go back sort of full circle to these historic relationships that you've got, how you mentioned that the venues do change year to year, but do the relationships get better as the years go on? Do they change significantly, or is it just these sort of constant refinements of the internal layouts of some of the venues that you're looking at from each year?
We have to adapt with technology. We have to be an ever evolving business. So we wouldn't just constantly put the same structure in year on year because we'd get bored of doing it, they'd get bored of having it, and we need to constantly innovate, or else we would just lose to our competition who would be innovating.
How much do you learn from other suppliers within the industry? Not necessarily those that are in direct competition with what you do, but presumably you work alongside suppliers of all descriptions and shapes and sizes. How much are you able to learn from the industry as a whole?
I think we learn every day. I think that if one thing we're certainly not as complacent, and I don't think that we would ever think that we know everything there is to know about building infrastructure for events. We have to be changing. We're a changing industry. Every event has to be different. Where you've got numerous. Let's choose music festivals. There's the music festival that all of a sudden there's hundreds of them. And what differentiates one festival from another? What differentiates one festival from another is the same as what differentiates us from our competition. We have to be different. We have to evolve.
And you have to make sure that your offering is clear and well identified.
Absolutely.
We should wrap things up there on today's episode. As I said, we're going to be welcoming James Anderson back into the studio next week, where we're going to be expanding this discussion on a wider level. We're going to be welcoming Nick Kenton from Lord's Cricket Ground and James Lee from the Twickenham Experience on to next week's episode of the podcast to talk a little bit about what they're doing as venues and incorporating companies like the Arena Group to expand their own offerings. If you've got any comments, anything you'd like to put to the podcast relating to today's topic and directly to James and the guys at Arena Group, by all means tweet us at Talking Events. We will tweet some links directly to their own website and to their own Twitter handles so that people can get in touch with you guys directly. You can watch a video of the podcast on the Event Industry News website and via the Event Industry News YouTube channel. We should thank James Anderson once again for joining us. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Twickenham for their hospitality and allowing us to set up the studio in their hospitality suite overlooking the magnificent pitch. The sun is shining. It's a perfect time to wrap things up on today's episode. For the time being, you've been listening to Talking Events. My name's James Dixon. Thank you very much.